appreciate y'all doing that because I use this exercise for multiple reasons. It's not a graded thing, it's not a pass-fail thing. Hope that the mic can pick up my voice. Okay. Why do y'all think I had you do this?
Team building?
And it's not just to kill time because I didn't have anything else to do. Teamwork. What else?
Thinking.
Critical thinking. Thinking outside the box. What else?
In a timely manner. In a timely manner. Like that, in a certain time.
In a timely manner. Okay. That y'all work within the guidelines. That's a biggie. I can use this exercise and I can see how well this class abides by boundaries. And I ask you not to leave the campus. I ask you to be mindful of other classrooms. I gave you a deadline. Those are all boundaries. And I could see how well y'all conform to boundaries. That kind of gives me an idea for the rest of the year. What else?
How we communicate.
Communication, excellent. I can't hear you. The first one that should come to your mind, be very logical, it's a nice icebreaker. Without a doubt. Let me see if we can't find a couple of other things this is good for. Well, we talked about teamwork. We talked about boundaries, icebreaker, communication. It's in a convoluted kind of way. It's a trust exercise because you have to trust me that I actually had a purpose for a reason for having you do this. But I used to do this where you would have to build a shelter that everybody in the room could fit under. And it would cover. And people had to trust me that it would be safe and everybody would be taken care of. So that's kind of why the trust was in there. Also, it's a leadership type of exercise. Consequences. You make decisions. For every decision, I don't care what it is. If it turns out good, if it turns out bad, that's consequences. You make a decision and there is going to be something that results from that decision. It may be positive, it may be negative, you may be successful, you may not. But one of the things we're not being taught nowadays is there are consequences for decisions. You know, here we had somebody that must have used half of a roll of tape to protect that egg. And quite frankly, if I had been a betting person, I would have bet there was a good chance that was going to be successful. I was quite surprised when it wasn't. But I can tell you right now, when I opened that box and there was just an egg in there, I knew if I went any further, the consequences would be I'd destroy that egg without any problem. And the consequences would be me having to clean up a big mess. See? So there's always a consequence for every decision. But the real reason is this is a problem-solving exercise. I want to teach you the steps and the stages of solving a problem. I gave you a problem. You had to build a shelter. Okay? Now, Did anybody, before you started out, stop and say, I wonder what she means by a shelter? I wonder truly what a shelter is. All right, you say, what, is something that's complicated? Is that what you said?
Okay.
Oh, protection, okay. Protection. Okay, what else is a shelter? Y'all finished early, so I've got a lot of time. We're gonna have to have some participation here. We're gonna be here for a while.
Security.
Do what?
Security.
Security. Good, so we got protection, we've got security.
Decision making.
A shelter is decision making? Is that the definition?
I don't know, I guess that's.
Coverage.
It covers?
Safe zone.
You know, do what?
A safe zone.
Safe
Safe zone.
is what she said.
Space?
Safe.
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 Zone.
Oh, safe zone, gotcha, thank you. Okay, all right. But see now, when we actually, say, okay, what's the definition of a shelter? We had 1, 2, 3, at least 4 different definitions. When we are going to solve a problem, would it not make sense to actually define what the problem is before you go out and try and solve it? So many times, we see the symptoms of the problem, but we don't actually know what the problem is. If you put a Band-Aid on the symptoms, you're liable to have to come back and rework a solution. So, the first thing we need to do is to define the problem. That may actually incorporate needs. When I had the students do the exercise where it involved everybody having to build a shelter that would cover everybody in class, they had to take into account things like, did people have bad backs? Did they have any injuries? Was there anybody hobbling around on crutches? Was there anybody pregnant? Was there anybody dressed that it would not be appropriate to crawl under a desk or something? So they had to look at the needs. The next step is resources. Now, let me give you something to think about. If you go tearing out of here and say, okay, we're going to build a shelter by getting something that can cover it, and we'll just we'll wing it as we go along, and we're going to get a box, and we're going to get a box, and then we're going to get some fillers for that box and such. What happens if you can't find the box?
Handy.
The what?
You don't have any idea. Make a new plan.
You have to find something new. So, I submit for your consideration, maybe you find all your resources first and then make a plan. Because if you make a plan and you can't find the resources to fulfill that plan, then you have to go back and make a new plan, and you've wasted time. So we define the problem, we locate all the resources that we have, then we make a plan. You start putting the plan into action, go ahead and start constructing the shelter. And then after you say, okay, this problem is solved, you have to evaluate it to see, was it truly solved? That's where I came in. And I tested your solution. If you had succeeded, it would have ended right there. But there are basically 3 outcomes on an evaluation. You either say, yes, it solved it, no, we're done, or, Now, this worked well here, but maybe this is where it was weak. And maybe this contributed to why it didn't work the first time. And you go back and you modify, which is to adjust. And then you go back and evaluate again. Does that make sense to anybody?
Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna be out of here at 12 o'clock.
Well, we got 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Is it 10 till 12? It's 20 till 12.
Well, yeah, but see, it takes us, we gotta search everything.
Okay, okay. She needs to talk to you. You can go outside for a
I
second.
talked to him already.
Oh, okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'll be out here in 10 minutes. So, the problem-solving process, you define the problem, you find your resources, you make your plan, you put your plan in action, you evaluate, did it actually solve the problem, and then you adjust if needed. Now, who was the leader in your group? Okay, so you were the leader, okay. Who was the leader in your group?
We were really both, we really kind of worked.
Equal? Okay, what about y'all? Did one kind of take lead? Okay. You were with them? Oh, okay. What about y'all? Equal?
It was me.
Oh, all by yourself?
No, he helped, but.
Oh, okay, I got
for
you,
the
I got you.
argument.
So you three were together?
Just us.
Oh, okay. Who were you with? Oh, you were with? Okay, gotcha. Well, I suggest that maybe I want to throw out consideration of a new definition of a leader. Because a leader does not have to be a tyrant that says, okay, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and this is the way it's going to be done, and nobody have any input or anything. A leader can be somebody who initiates action without being told what to do. Okay, so y'all are talking about, well, you know, we need a box. I know exactly where one is, let me go get it. Okay? Or, you know, this is really working well, but why don't we try this? It might even be better. A leader initiates action on their own. Leadership skills, I have the ability to solve problems. Then you have a follower. Now a follower, they're good. We like followers. A follower really doesn't quite get what the plan is, but if somebody asks them to do something, they are so willing and so happy to be included, and they want to be part of the solution. They just haven't figured out something that they can do without being told. Okay? And then you've got your spectator. And then when the problem's solved, oh yeah, we did a good job here. And then they participate in the solution without doing or contributing anything. Got a problem with a couple of these. Well, first of all, we all fall into these categories at some time. Here in the classroom, I'm the leader. When we get into a faculty meeting, I'm a follower. I'm not quite sure what the plan is, but when they ask me to do something, I sure am happy to participate. And then you got a spectator. I don't think anybody would really want me to try and initiate action on my own during brain surgery. Not quite enough with it to, you know, have somebody trust me with something like that. So being a spectator would be fine. The other day, I got a light on my car, and I took it to my mechanic. Now, First of all, I don't think he would have wanted me to get under the hood and try and fix something by myself. Wouldn't be appropriate, because I'm not qualified for that. And if he had asked, I would have gladly participated, but he really didn't need me there. And so I kind of watched through the window. And I watched him work on it, and I watched him fix it. And that's perfectly appropriate, because I really did not have the skill to do what he needed, or what was needed to solve it. The problem is, if you camp or settle in one of these for the majority of the time. So, if every time you have a problem, you say, well, I can't solve this, I'm just gonna have to ask somebody else how to solve it. I'll go to mom and dad, I'll go to my husband, I'll go to my best friend and have them tell me what I need to do. You know, one of the problems with that is, you know, when you have somebody tell you what to do for your own personal problems, if it doesn't work, there's a real good chance that somebody's gonna get blamed, and you can step back and say, you know something, that wasn't my fault, she told me what to do. Or that wasn't my fault, this is what I was instructed to do. I was told this would solve this problem. So it's not really my fault. And that can be dangerous, because that's a victim's mentality. And that's not good to be in that situation. And so, it's, you know, it's okay to ask for help and get input and such, but if you camp there and every one of your problems have to be solved by somebody else, then that's probably something that you might want to consider looking at. And then the spectator, of course, that's no good. Always having somebody else do the work for you, no responsibility whatsoever for your life. That's not good, you know. There's all kinds of examples of being a spectator. But the true purpose of this exercise was to teach you problem-solving skills and get you to look at leadership tendencies in your life and how, you know, where you are here. This is on the blackboard. It's listed as written assignment number 1. Well, these are under PowerPoint. You have 3 units of PowerPoint slides, and I think there's a folder that says PowerPoint, and it's under Unit 1. You have a written assignment concerning this exercise. You are to imagine yourself on an island. You are stranded by yourself with nobody there, and you are to use the problem-solving steps to tell me how you would survive. Okay? Now somebody says, when is it due? All right? It's due right now, but I won't be closing it out for at least a couple of weeks. So you'll have time to work on it, but it's due, but there's not a deadline right this minute where you say, okay, you've got to have it by next Wednesday or next Thursday. Okay? So think about it during the weekend, work on it. The assignment is open. You do not have to turn it in this weekend if you want to process this a little bit. I've recorded the explanation of the problem-solving stuff. I want you to use the problem-solving steps in how you would survive. I don't want you to just go willy-nilly and doesn't matter, you know, going off half-cocked someplace. You do not have to write a volume, but I do want all 5 steps covered. Okay? Any questions? Before we have to leave, what did y'all think of this exercise? I see some nodding. Yes? It was fun.
I like the teamwork.
I like the teamwork.
It was interesting.
Interesting. It's kind of out of the box. And, you know, it's a good way to kind of introduce us and such, but, was anybody just totally bored or hated the assignment? It's okay if you tell me that, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I just kinda wanna get a gauge of how the students, feel about this. Well, before the cop comes back and runs us out of here, I hope y'all have a phenomenal weekend. I hope you have a safe weekend, I hope you have a dry weekend. Please, there's a hurricane coming, so don't take any chances. I know that we don't have any, you know, we don't have any classes this afternoon, so, do, be careful, and I don't know if you have classes tomorrow, but I've watched the, Blackboard and school site to see if they cancel the school classes tomorrow. Y'all take care, oh, don't forget to wipe down your desk. Anybody who didn't sign the roll, it's up here. Thank you all for your participation, and thank you for your interest and you being so nice during class and understanding. Y'all take care.
You too.
Thank you.